Hey, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're out in Plein. We're in the spring green hills, and these are some beautiful rolling hills, and I'm just surrounded by them. Because it's 90 degrees today, and because it's sunny, there's a lot of atmospheric perspective that I'm noticing out in that valley. I painted out here yesterday as well, and I just loved the layers of atmosphere as the hills went back in distance. Today I'm going to be trying out some of this Lucas painting butter. This is called medium number 5 from Lucas Paints, which are available at Jerry's Artorama. Today I'm going to try and underpaint the whole painting with this as my medium. Now this painting butter dries very quickly on the palette. So because it's a very hot temperature, what I'm expecting is that I can underpaint the whole thing by using this medium, give it 5 minutes to set up, and I should be able to paint pretty much on top of a dry surface to make an alla prima underpainting and have it dry and then go over the top. I think that what it's going to do is it's going to give me a surface that is totally dry and is going to let me use a lot of broken color. I haven't really been painting with painting butter that often lately, so it's going to be something new for me to try. I have worked with it in the past. You know, Claude Monet would often paint a whole scene, take it home, let it dry, come back a few days later and repaint the whole thing again. And that's how he was able to get all those beautiful shards of color. So today I'm trying to do a similar technique to that, but to make it happen a little bit more quicker, because lately I've been enjoying doing a painting start to finish in one sitting rather than coming back day after day to make that happen. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up. We're out in Plein. It's beautiful. Let's make this painting. I'm going to start today by scrubbing in all the shadow shapes with quinacridone rose oil paint, thinned with solvent. Go. Well, I've mixed my colors. My tent blew over, so I have to pick that back up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this painting medium and I'm going to squeeze a small pile of it out, just a little bit next to each of my piles of paint. And then I'm going to mix that color into the pile of paint. And I'm going to do that pile by pile as I'm going to use them. This painting medium will dry so quickly on the palette that these colors will set up so quickly that I won't even be able to use them. I make this underpainting, then give it a couple minutes to dry out, and we'll take it from there. Underpainted the whole panel using paint mixed with the Lucas painting butter medium. Now this is already starting to get really tacky, and I cleaned all the piles of paint off of my palette that I mixed because they were starting to set up and get really unusable by this point. So I've cleaned everything off. I've got it underpainting. I'm going to set this in the sun to really dry and set up for about 5 minutes. I'm just going to sit in my car, turn the air conditioner on, and just kind of chill out. Then I'm going to come back, and it's going to be as if I'm approaching this painting from working on it for 2 days. You know, this might be as much as I would accomplish in the first day of working, take my stuff home, come back out on a similar day. This experiment, what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to go after broken color. I've painted a lot of the fields and things like that in tones of pinks and oranges, and I'm going to let some of these colors show through, but I'm going to repaint the whole panel after it's dry. So I'm going to take a little bit of time here. I'm going to chill out. I'm going to let this thing set up, and then we'll be back. All right, so I took a little break there. I sat in the air conditioning, and let's see how dry this has gotten over the last 5 minutes. So this white on the roof of the barn was pretty thick, and you can see I can still push it around, but for the most part, I mean, the sky, it's really tacky, all this stuff. There's some thicker parts that haven't totally set up, but this is all really dry enough to where I think that I can put a fresh layer of paint over the top without picking up anything that's underneath it. That's pretty exciting. It might be like straight oil paint dry overnight. I mean, this is really tacky and set up, so we're gonna keep going. I scraped away everything that I had on my palette, so I have to start fresh. That's okay. I'm just approaching this fresh as if I had come back on a second day. Well, I'm finishing up here, and I think that for today's purposes, the technique worked out pretty well. I'm going to experiment a little bit more with this technique. The thing that I really wanted to show you in this painting demonstration, all this atmosphere in the hills. You can remember right back to the start of me talking about making this painting, I was talking about trying to capture the atmosphere, the humidity in the air as it relates to those hills in the background. And I think that you can see that I've captured a lot of those color shifts, and as the hills recede, the colors become cooler and a little bit lighter. In today's case, I put down the color of the shadows of the background hills a little bit grayer than it ended up being in my initial layer, and that allowed me to put a lot of color on top. As I look through this painting, you can think back to the underpainting that I had, and it was a lot of warm tone in the foreground, and you can see that I've layered a lot of yellows and greens over those warm tones. I think that using the Lucas painting butter, you know, it worked pretty well for what I was trying to do. It didn't work out exactly as I thought it was going to, but I think that I'll keep it in the paint box and I'll try it again soon. By using the Lucas painting butter, I was able to have a great base of color to work on top of, and I think I'll give it a try in the future. My goal with the painting butter, I wanted to get a whole painting down on the panel, take a couple minutes to let it set up, and then come back out and repaint the whole thing again. I think that it worked out pretty well for me in that case. And you can see a lot in the ground planes, some of these areas where I was able to get kind of a drier stroke because the things below it were already dry. Right here, for instance, you can see the way that the pinks and the oranges layer over the top of the green. And so I'm going to keep this idea. I'll experiment more with it in the future, but for now, it's time to get home. I'm going to pack my things up. You guys, thanks so much for sticking with me.